David is recommending this to Solomon, who is going to be the next king over the nation of Israel, because he had seen what it was like for a man to be a king over the nation of Israel who was hollow where his heart should have been. David's predecessor, Saul. And Gene Edwards wrote about him in A Tale of Three Kings when he wrote this: Saul was given authority that is God's alone. He was God's anointed. God treated him that way. He was also eaten with jealousy, filled with self-importance, and willing to live in spiritual darkness. Is there a moral in these contradictions? Yes, and it would splinter a lot of your concepts about power, about great men and women under God's anointing, and about God himself. Many pray for the power of God more every year, and those prayers sound powerful, sincere, godly, and without ulterior motive. But hidden under such prayers and fervor, however, are ambition, a craving for fame, the desire to be considered a spiritual giant. The person who prays such a prayer may not even know it, but the dark motives and desires are in his heart, in your heart. Even as people pray these prayers, they're hollow on the inside. There's little internal spiritual growth. Prayer for power is the quick and short way, circumventing internal growth. There is a vast difference between outward clothing of the Spirit's power and the inward filling of the Spirit's life. In the first, despite the power, the hidden man of the heart may remain unchanged, and in the latter, the monster is dealt with. Interesting about God, he hears all those requests for power. With fervent young men and women pray in every generation, and he answers them. Very often, he grants these requests for power, for authority. Sometimes in answering them, he says yes to some very unworthy vessels. He gives unworthy people his power. And even though they are piles of dead men's bones inside. Why does God do such a thing? The answer is both simple and shocking. He sometimes gives unworthy vessels a greater portion of his power so that others will eventually see the true state of internal nakedness within the individual. So think again when you hear the power merchant. Remember that God sometimes gives his power to people for unforeseen reasons. A person can be living in the greatest of sin, and the outer gift still seem to be working perfectly. The gifts of God, once given, cannot be recalled, even in the presence of sin.